guys, Deborah Barrera from Public Art at University of Houston Systems, and I'm here with Public Art Studio to do our first conversation. And this conversation is creative immersion with Amos Cochran, one of the artists here with Color Field. And I'm joined today by Joshua Arnoldy, and he is our student feature. He is getting his master's in music composition at the Moore School of Music. And we are going to discuss Amos Cochran's immersive artwork, Outside In. That was inspired by William Eggleston's photograph of an Arkansas sunset. I had a few questions for Joshua that I think will really help our audience better understand, not just Cochran's work, but also about the creative process of musicians. So something that I really was excited about for education purposes was to get us in, understanding of the creative processes that are outside of the visual arts and how they connect. And so I want to introduce Joshua and let him take it away a little bit with just explain how it's been here at U of H and a little bit more about you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. It's great to be here speaking with you. Like she said, my name is Joshua Arnoldy, and I'm a master's student here studying composition of music. It's been a very great experience working with the amazing faculty and staff at the Moore School of Music. That's what I've got. I'm ready.
He's ready. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start with some questions. The first one is, listening to this composition, what, as a composer yourself, are you most excited or moved by, and what feelings does this piece evoke for you personally?
So we'll start with the feelings part of the question. I think that this is a very immersive experience, as you've said, and it truly is an experience of sound. The way Cochran writes his music is this total envelopment of atmosphere. And it's really exciting. The parts of the piece that really get me intrigued are the way he uses his percussion, actually.
Oh, nice.
So you hear these sounds of percussive rhythms that just kind of interlope throughout the piece.
Yeah.
And then they fade in and go away. And this kind of fading and go away happens with all of the voices. You hear the strings as they come in and come out. It's doing right now,
yeah.
I think. And I think it's just really exciting to be able to just really place yourself in the world that's created.
I love that. That's incredible. And I feel like that kind of perspective you could only get from a musician. So thank you for that. Are there any specific ways Cochran uses a certain instrument or series of notes that you find contemporary, avant-garde, or different? And if so, do you use any of these in your own compositions?
Yeah, he definitely uses a lot of contemporary techniques. The emergence of just electronic music in general and something we call music concrete, which is using found sound clips. So what we mean by that is recorded sounds of things that naturally happen.
Yeah.
So you hear it kind of in the middle with the clicks and stuff. And that really became very popular around the 1950s, coming into that. And it's really only grown since then. We've got really incredible artists. Jacob TV is another composer who actually uses a lot of human speech as pre-recorded sound. Ooh. And then he manipulates those sounds into his music, which kind of made me think of that in the way that he does it. But of course, Cochran uses a very different approach because there's this kind of absence of melody that kind of comes throughout, and we're just left with this enveloped world that he's created throughout. And because there isn't really a melody, I can't really say that there are any specific motives or notes, but I do think that the way he's chosen to create is very interesting. Because one of the challenges with electronic music is creating sounds that are interesting, but aren't cliche.
Yeah.
And in that way, I mean, if you're going to write electronic music that sounds like a violin, why?
Yeah.
Instead of just write for a violin, right?
Yeah.
So I think he does a really great job of bridging these two worlds, kind of a live experience. We have these strings that are obviously recorded beautifully throughout this soundtrack. We have this kind of synthesized sustain that goes throughout the entire piece, and then these percussive sounds, and some of those I do believe are pre-recorded sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I think a lot in the visual art world about found object sculpture, that from Duchamp and going in that trajectory in a similar way.
Exactly.
So I love that it's, we're finding that same connection here with music and of course with. So let's see, the composition was inspired by a photograph of William Eggleston of an Arkansas sunset. I do get a sense of a sun setting slowly on a vast purple-pink sky when I listen to this work. Do you ever think of specific images when you compose your music? And can you describe what that sensation is like, turning images into music?
Yeah, I don't think I use specific images. At least I haven't yet. There's no reason I could never. But I do write a lot based on emotion and human experience. I like to write music about specific situations or emotions or people specifically. You know, what do I feel from this person that I know? And I think trying to put that into a musical context can be very difficult. And when you think about it, as a listener, there are kind of these different layers of being a listener. You use different ears for different things. You don't listen to this music the same way you would listen to Beethoven.
Yeah.
You don't listen to Beethoven the same way you listen to music on your way home driving.
Right.
Right? So in that way, composers kind of have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We have to be so detailed that we're putting everything down specifically on the page.
Yeah.
We're working note by note, measure by measure. We also have to be able to step back into the experience of it.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very challenging thing to do.
Yes.
And that's kind of where the portraying an image or a feeling really comes in, because you have to work in all of these layers. You have to make the total experience from the listener who sits down for the first time hearing it to be able to catch that. And you have to use the tools of the individual notes and measures to do that.
Yeah, that's incredible. I feel like we've won the lottery with Joshua here, and his incredible answers. So I hope you guys are listening in and getting a lot out of this, because I am. My mind is being blown every time we open this mouth, which is great. Around the 9-minute mark, we start to hear clicks, bells, and what almost sounds like rustling paper or small pebbles rolling across gravel. Unlike traditional instruments, Cochran's use of these sounds really lends itself to creating a different soundscape for our listeners, which you did kind of touch on. For me, it pulls me out of the feeling of listening to music and toward more of an immersive listening experience, which is the goal of today's conversation, thinking about immersion across art mediums. And in a way, it feels more immediate as an auditory place and less narrative-driven like a traditional song. And so I guess if you could expand a little bit more on how, as a musician, kind of similar to with my work, in visual art, I really want to transport somebody, into a new place, and I want to give them a sense of am I really in this space or not? And do you do something like that in your own work? And maybe you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. I think Cochran's work does a great job of merging these two worlds of almost like a fantasy and reality. And I think the tools he uses to do that, this kind of fantasy world, to synthesize sustains and these strings, is kind of our more classical, traditional classical music side of things.
Yeah.
And then also the sounds that you were talking about, what I'm guessing are pre-recorded sounds,
yes.
The rustling, the crinkling, the popping. I actually thought of raindrops when I heard that. I think that it's kind of more of the reality. It's like every day, if you're just sitting outside, you hear sounds happening all around you, and they're not in this prescribed fashion, like music is sometimes. Did I answer your question? Was there more to that?
I think just maybe if you could talk a little bit about, I thought about how you were saying, how we listen to music when we're driving, or when we're, in the zone at the gym versus maybe this experience. Can you talk a little bit more about, coming from a musician standpoint, how do you think about those spaces? How do you think about your work, I guess?
Yeah, I think, so for Cochran's work specifically, because it is public art, because it's outside, what is today a beautiful day, you get to really be in the experience of this music and kind of almost create the world yourself as you're listening, right? And we don't really have that luxury as musicians, because a lot of times when our listeners listen to music, they're sitting in a concert hall. And there is a preconceived idea of what you're going to hear when you go to the concert hall and sit down, right? Yeah. You expect certain things to happen. And I think that is lost here, and it's something that we always have to keep in mind as composers in general. Who is our audience? How are they going to listen to this music? Is it going to be recorded on an album? Is it going to be in the concert hall? Is it going to be live out in the park next week? it's a part of how you hear the sound. It's a part of how you experience it.
Yeah, I think to draw kind of a similarity to visual art, we think about the gallery as this kind of sacrosanct place, or like Blackford Art Museum right next door, and you go into that place and it's like almost going into maybe a church or something. You know, there's a way that you're acting in that space. And when art is, maybe if there was a painting in those bushes over there, how do we come across that? So I think that's really nice that you're bridging those gaps for us. And of course, I think it's really nice that Amos's work is here, that people can comment upon it as these people are coming behind us right now. They get to be a part of this experience, and it's just incredible. So this is the last question. You are about to graduate with your master's in music composition, which is such an incredibly challenging and creatively rigorous degree. And working with artists as well as creatives in other fields, I know firsthand that art is truly found everywhere. What other modes of working do you see your music developing?
So first and foremost, I like to think of myself as a storyteller, and music is just one of the ways that I create stories. I base a lot of my music on people, human experience, how we move through life, and trying to draw a musical connection to how that operates. I also like to do that in other ways. I enjoy writing. I enjoy drawing on my iPad. I've gotten really into that recently. But I think overall it's about, for me, in my music and in other, it's about relaying experiences of my own in a way that will benefit another listener.
That's what they want to give something.
I love that. And I love that we're kind of tying up this conversation with how we as creatives, put ourselves into the work. And so how you said that was really great and beautiful. And I think it's such a beautiful setting that we're here with Amos's work. He's doing very much the same thing. So Joshua, thank you. That was incredible. I do want to mention that you can learn more about Joshua at his website, which is scarletfootprint.com. He has his own compositions on there and a little bit cool information about him, all kinds of stuff. So please check that out. And of course, go online to Public Art UHS and find out more about Amos's work. We'd love for you to come down and be here and experience this yourself, and also all of the other artwork that we have on campus. Do check our website first. You can also reserve a tour, and there's so much on the website. There's more of conversations, there's crafts, all kinds of stuff. So please do that, and I hope to see you next time from here at University of Houston main campus. Me and Joshua.
Right,
Had a great time.
Actually, Amos Cochran joined us, and he said, "This is way fun. You guys are fantastic." So, yes, from the artist himself, he says hello.
Hi, Amos. Thank you so much. This was incredible to be here. We loved your work, and obviously Joshua had some incredible things to say that I couldn't even fathom. So, from a visual artist and musician, music artist, we thank you.
All right. Get a little closer to the speaker box here.